All right, today's going to be a weird show. I'm feeling oddly optimistic. I have no idea why about the Sabres this morning, and at the same time, I'm angry about another thing that happened with the Sabres over the weekend. Coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Monday, March 11th, and the Sabres sit 7 points out of a playoff spot. I don't know why. With that being said, I feel optimistic about them today. A lot of it is the week that they are about to have. Come on, let's be positive here on the games that they're about to have. Couple against Detroit, game against the Islanders. We'll break it down coming up here on today's show, recapping some of what we saw over the weekend as well. As always, if you want to get involved with the show, be sure to go to our Locked On Sabres text line. If you're not already a subscriber, you can go to subtext.com, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres, and you can find us there. Our question of the day from the text line is, how much rope does Don Granato and Kevin Adams have next year? I feel like if they're not in a playoff spot within 4 points 10 games in next year, or 20 games in, there needs to be a change. Okay, so a lot of different situations there around a playoff spot in the early parts of next season. How much rope does Granato have? How much rope does Adams have? I would still bet right now that the most likely scenario is Granato will be the Sabres head coach on opening night of the 2024-25 season, and that Kevin Adams will be the general manager. I do think that they are in two very different situations. I can see, despite the fact I think Granato is the favorite to be the coach next year, I don't think that has to happen. More and more, I wonder if Terry Pegula would move off of Don Granato and accept the idea of paying another coach not to coach for him for only two individuals. And the two individuals I think of the most are Lindy Ruff and are Michael Pekka, who is the assistant coach right now with the New York Rangers. Beyond those two, I don't really think they would move off of Granato, and I'm not even sure they would move off Granato for those two. So we'll see. I think if Granato opens the season next year, to your question, I think we're talking about a really bad stretch to open the year, like a 1-7 or a 3-16, 3-12, like a bad month. And maybe they would make a change in season. Lindy would probably still be available. I don't think he'll get a different head coaching job, so they can make a move in season like that. Adams, I think, is very different. I don't think they're anywhere close. I don't think you're anywhere near Kevin Adams not being the Sabres general manager. I don't want to quite say he has a lifetime contract, but I feel like he's got a lot of rope. I don't think anything could happen next season that would cause Adams to lose his job. I don't know that anything could happen in the next 2 seasons that would cause Adams to lose his job. Maybe if they're like one of the worst teams in the league 2 more years. But Adams is a Pegula guy, and they trust him a lot. And I think to break that trust, it would take a lot. It would take a lot for that to happen. So that's my answer on those 2 questions. So the Sabres over the weekend, you know what? They kept things a little bit interesting. They beat the Edmonton Oilers, and they kind of did it twice. They win in a shootout. We'll talk about the events that arrived us at a point where it was a shootout win instead of an overtime win. But when looking at the game itself, did anybody have any confidence? Here they are again. They've actually stopped giving up goals in the first couple of minutes lately. But here they were, 29 seconds in. Ryan McLeod makes it 1-0. And then the Oilers make it 2-0 at the 14-19 mark of the first period. And there's a lot of Oiler fans in the building, and they're cheering. And, a lot of them come from Toronto because McDavid is from there. A lot of them come from Erie, actually, too, because McDavid has a large following there. And also, a lot of bandwagon fans. Let's be honest. A lot of those fans have been Penguins fans from 2008 to 2018, and now they're Oilers fans. So get a little bit of mix of everybody. All that added up to a lot of Oiler fans in the building, and it was loud when the Oilers scored that second goal. Tage Thompson on the power play, just kind of whacking at the puck at center ice, at the slot, is able to get it by Stuart Skinner, his 19th of the season power play goal. It was unassisted. I thought that they should have gave 2 assists out, and one of them should have went to Bowen Byram. I don't know why they didn't. I didn't think the Oilers ever had possession, but 2 between the Sabres touching it and Thompson touching it, whatever. So 2-1. They played a lot of the hockey game at 2-1. At the midway point of the third period, first goal of the season for a guy that deserves it, Jacob Bryson. And you know what? It wasn't a great goal by any means. Bryson comes in on the right wall. He kind of throws a softish backhand at the net, and it finds a way to beat Stuart Skinner, his first of the year. Bryson, kind of a weird player. I've always talked about him this way, that I like him because of how small he is. I played defense growing up, and I was always a super small kid, but I liked playing it from the point. I liked having the whole ice to look at, skating backwards. I like that. And Bryson is that. Like, I see that in him. Like, he's little, but he's made it, and it's kind of impressive that he's done that, especially when he's not really a very dynamic player. You would think guy that makes the NHL is a 5'9", 5'10" defenseman. Well, that guy must be sick with the puck. He must be dangerous, offensive, tons of points, stick handling, speed, and there is some of that for Bryson, but he's not a very exciting player. He's just kind of a reliable guy. And he's been that way for about a month now. After not being in the Sabres lineup almost all season, Bryson has been really good. Let's give it to him, right? Little bit of a round of applause. Jacob Bryson, I think, has been very good over the course of 19 games here. Not playing a large role. He's only averaging 15 minutes a night. But I thought he earned that goal with the play that he's had over the last 19 games of the season. There's also a weird stat running around right now about Jacob Bryson that the Sabres have only lost, well, I guess now it's a little bit more. They've lost 6 games. They've 13 wins, 6 losses in 19 games with Jacob Bryson in the lineup. I don't know why they have so much more success with him in there. Could be a coincidence. They won his first 6 games that he played. So Bryson's been good. He gets the goal, ties it at 2. Anyways, moving on to the overtime. Unbelievable. The Sabres score, and it was a great goal. Owen Power. That's a play I've wanted to see from Owen Power all the time. Power, I'm someone that tries to trust the numbers over my own eyes, because I know over the course of 82 games, I can't remember. It's impossible to remember every observation you have over the course of an entire season. To write it down is kind of the numbers. That's how I look at it. I'm just writing down my observations that way I can remember them better. So Power's numbers have been solid all year. They've not been great. He can do a lot better. And for a number 1 overall pick, eventually he's going to have to do a lot better. But he's been fine. That's the numbers that I trust. My eyes, I can't stand watching him play. He can drive me nuts sometimes with how conservative an approach he has with the puck at times, how he doesn't use his body and his size the way you would like for someone that is 6'5". He's got some more filling out to do, of course, on that front. And I wish he was more aggressive with the skating and the passing ability that he has, but he's not. He's not very aggressive. Well, on that goal that we thought won it, he was kind of forced to do this by the clock, but that's a play where if I'm Don Granato, I am sitting Owen Power down for film review the next day, and I am telling him, ignore the clock. Pretend the clock doesn't exist, and watch what you do in this play. It's 3-on-3. He's got a lane. And Owen Power very commonly is someone that is always looking for the pass. He is hesitating. He is looking for something else. This was, I got the puck. I am just walking in. I'm ripping it. No hesitation. I am going forward with speed, and I am going to put the puck past this goaltender. That was the mentality Power had on that play. Again, it was because he only had 3 seconds left. He kind of had to be that way. But if I'm Don Granato, I am sitting him down and saying, I want you to do that all the time. I want you to be that decisive. I want you to be that aggressive. Even if you don't have a very good shot right now, I want you to make a decision, go with speed, and do it. And that's back-to-back games he would have had a goal since Bowen Byram kind of stepped up as the number 2 defenseman, and I think in many ways pushed Power down as the 3rd most relied defenseman instead of the 2nd most relied upon defenseman. So I like that goal from Power a lot, and I wish that it would have counted for him to get the winner, but the Sabres were able to throw the puck don't lie message out there with the win in a shootout. Power did not score in the shootout, but you did get Tuck, and you had Thompson also scoring in the shootout. So Sabres get the win, puck don't lie, 30-30. And 5. That review was BS. We all know it. 5 minutes after both teams have gone to the locker room, Power's the only one that comes back out. And the only reason he's even dressed is because he scored, and he's probably talking with Rob Ray in the locker room or in the hallway. So they review the play. Both teams have left the ice. And if you saw the replay, that was not definitive evidence. The puck was kind of in a place where, because the NHL doesn't have 4K cameras along the blue line, when you're zooming in on a camera that's not high quality on something that's in motion, there is something called a motion blur. And I think that's what the refs saw here, or the linesman saw here. The puck has this little crescent moon black spot coming off of itself that's touching the blue line, that pushes Tuck offside. I think it was a motion blur. I don't even think the puck is really touching the blue line. I think it only looks that way because of the quality of the camera that's being used, and that's the slowest picks. That's the slowest you can slow it down to. They called it offside. I can't believe it was called offside because I did not believe it was definitive evidence. Nobody batted an eye that it was offside. The Oilers were gone. They didn't make a stink about it. They didn't hang around to see if they reversed it. They left. They left and got undressed and came back 5 minutes later to go, oh, they reversed it, huh? Okay, we'll take another shot at this. And then McDavid, by the way, has the puck, and I thought for sure that was going to be the end, and everyone was going to leave that arena fuming at that. Especially when, you had a lot of 1999 comparisons, right? Where was this in 99? But the Sabres got the job done. They won the game. Even though Cousins didn't score at the end of overtime, you might have thought they were jinxed after that too. They get it done in a shootout. All right. When we come back, why am I feeling so optimistic about the Sabres and getting back in the race at this late stage? I'll tell you why when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry about where you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. See the view from your seat before you buy it. This is the best feature. You're scrolling through where you want to sit. Sometimes you can't decide. What helps? Getting a virtual look at exactly how high you'll be, what your angle is, what you'll be looking at, how it relates to the glass, the netting, whatever you want. You'll be able to tell right then and there. So you know what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Be sure to make your next listen Locked On Sports today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. You should check out Locked On Sports today because it's the busiest day of the NFL calendar. There are so many signings, so many cuts being made around the league, Bills stuff happening, Gabe Davis to Jacksonville, among a billion other things that have happened in the league. So check out Locked On Sports today. So, the Sabres week to come. This is why I'm feeling so optimistic. Let's look at the standings. As it stands today, Tampa Bay in the number 1 wildcard spot at 74 points. New York, the Islanders in the second wildcard spot at 72 points, and tied with the Islanders at 72 points are the Detroit Red Wings. Then you get to Washington at 69, the Devils at 66, and the Sabres at 65. They have jumped over Pittsburgh. They jumped over Montreal a while ago. And this week, they can jump over both New Jersey and the Capitals if they have a good week. It's amazing to say it, but I truly believe with so few games remaining, only 17 games left into mid-March, I still feel like the Sabres are a great week away from being back in the conversation. I don't think they're a great week away from having a good chance at the playoffs. Don't get me wrong there. If they won all three of their games here against Detroit twice and the Islanders once, I still think they'd be pretty unlikely to make the playoffs. But they'd get themselves back into interesting games. And if I told Sabre fans right now, hey, you're going to sign this deal, you're going to miss the playoffs 100%, but they're going to get back into the race to the point where they're alive going into the final week of the season. And you're not going to know they're going to miss the playoffs. You're not going to know they're going to miss the playoffs, but you're going to be alive going into the final week. Everyone in the world would sign up for that. And I don't think it's unrealistic that the Sabres can get themselves to that point. Part of the reason why is not only that they're playing pretty well as of late. They have 13 of their last 20 points, which is a fine points percentage. It's a lot better than what you've seen from a couple of teams above them, like Jersey and also Detroit, who has fallen back. It's better than the Lightning have had in the last 10 games as well. The Sabres have head-to-heads coming up. They have 3 games against the Red Wings from here to the end of the season, including 2 against Detroit this week. The Red Wings, by the way, have lost 5 games in a row. They have really fallen back. I'll take a little bit of a victory lap here. Just as I predicted, that was not a real playoff team. We all knew it. It was not hard to see. Eventually, it was going to come crashing down. I won't even call them lucky. We just knew they were getting save numbers and shooting percentage numbers that were unsustainable. It was never going to continue that way. And like we thought, the Red Wings are coming crashing down. 72 points. They've lost 5 games in a row. And they have 2 games against the Sabres this week. If I just focus on Detroit for a moment, if the Sabres win their 2 games this week against the Red Wings in regulation, I know it's a big if, and the Sabres, let's be honest, are not worthy of even trusting them a little bit to win those 2 games in regulation. But for sake of conversation, if they were to win those 2 games in regulation, the Sabres at worst, well, I shouldn't say that. If they were to win the Islander game too, this is what I mean. This is why a lot needs to happen, right? But if they have a great week, they win 3 in a row. Let's just give them 3 in a row. They get hot. At worst, they're 3 points back of the Red Wings. That's in the conversation. That's in the race. You're not likely to get atop of Detroit, but you're in it. Of course, while the Red Wings are right there for the taking because you have 2 head-to-heads, they only have 1 head-to-head against the Islanders. That's Thursday. The Islanders are 7 points above them. You can cut that to 5, not including their other games. And the other difference is, while the Red Wings are sliding, the Islanders are getting hot. 6-game win streak for the New York Islanders. So they're tough to top here. And also, the Islanders are one of these weird, tough, gritty teams. Their goal differential is bad. They have 14 points from overtime losses this year compared to the Sabres, 5. The Sabres have 3 more regulation wins this year than the Islanders do. But this is the Islanders. Every year, this is the Islanders. They're weirdly in the race. No one thinks they're good. Everyone knows they have a 0.0% chance to win the Stanley Cup, even if they make it, but they find a way to make it. And it's super annoying because they feel like a wasted space in the NHL playoffs. But there they are. This morning, open the standings. Who's in that last playoff spot? The New York Islanders. So get that win against the Islanders on Thursday, and maybe you're going to need help with New York. Detroit, you could do a lot of the work yourself because you have 2 head-to-heads. The Islanders, you're going to need some help along the way. But here's the thing. All in all, why I feel optimistic, it's not as much about the Sabres. It's about the teams above them. I don't trust any of them. I don't trust any of the teams above the Sabres. That is the core of why I feel a little bit hopeful this morning. Despite I know the odds are super long and that they're almost certainly not going to get in. The reason I feel a little optimistic is the Devils don't impress me at all, and they're losing a lot lately. The Capitals don't impress me at all. The Red Wings have never impressed me a lot, and the Islanders have never impressed me a lot. That's really the core of why I even want to look at this, is I don't trust the 4 teams above the Buffalo Sabres. When we come back, the help the Sabres will need. All right, I'll do it. Out of town scoreboard watch. Let's look at it. I'm going to be watching these games. We'll try to keep this live this week. See if the Sabres can. It's get back in it week, right? It's this week is all about get back in it. And maybe they can just do that, but they'll need some help. I'll tell you what help they need when we come back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. If you want to emotionally hedge on some of these games, you could do that. You could bet the Islanders. You could go after the Red Wings a little bit if you want. Or if you want to double down, LA tonight perhaps is a way you could look. Say goodbye to busted brackets. It's not just hockey. It is basketball month, NBA, but more so college. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. I love my futures. You can do that. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, let's look at the Oots, the out-of-town scoreboard. We haven't done this since the fall. I mean, the Sabres haven't earned doing this, but we're going to do it anyway. The Utes, the out-of-town scoreboard for this week. It's get back in it week for the Buffalo Sabres. 2 head-to-heads against the Red Wings, 1 head-to-head against the Islanders, the 2 teams that they are chasing. So, Detroit, 2 games against the Sabres, Tuesday and Saturday. Their other game this week, Thursday night, hosting the Arizona Coyotes. All right, we're going to need you, Yotes. The Yotes are not playing hot right now. They have lost a lot of games lately. They had an epic 14-game losing streak that they just ended recently. So, not a great team to rely upon, especially with the Coyotes being on the road. But let's hope for Connor Ingram or Karel Vejmelka to get hot that night. The Red Wings are losing to everybody right now. So, let's hope the Coyotes can beat the Red Wings on Thursday, and maybe we can get the Sabres within 1 point of the Red Wings by the end of the week. Possible, by the way. The Islanders are the team they're going to need more help from, which I mentioned. Monday, tonight, if you're listening here on Monday, at the LA Kings. The Islanders are out west. They are at LA, and our partners over at FanDuel Sportsbook have that game as, of course, the Kings being a favorite in that one. I just had the odds up. I'll get those for you in a moment. But the Kings are a possession team. They play a lot like the Islanders, but I think they're a more talented version of them. So go Kings in that one, -150. LA is -150, so a nice solid favorite to win that game. If you are interested in scoreboard watching, that's a 10:40 puck drop. So I don't blame you if you're not that interested to stay up that late for this one. But check back tomorrow morning. We'll see if we get some help. Thursday, the Islanders play the Sabres. That's their next game after tonight's game. And then Saturday, the Islanders host the Ottawa Senators, who are bottom of the barrel as well. So you're not getting a lot of great teams playing these two. The Sabres play 3 head-to-heads, and of the other 3 games, you got 1 playoff team, and you've got 2 bad teams in Arizona and Ottawa. But that's what you're looking at. Tonight, you're rooting for LA. Tomorrow, the Sabres do business against the Red Wings. And hey, by tomorrow, they could be 5 points out. 5 points. Let's 1 day at a time. All right, I'm going to do the cliche. 1 day at a time, right? The Kings beat the Islanders, and then tomorrow, you are playing for the right to go to play the Islanders at home with a chance to get within 3. There we go. That's how you get excited for Thursday's game. Get the Kings to win tonight. They're favored to win it tonight. Get the Sabres to beat the Red Wings at home tomorrow. And Thursday night's game is to get within 3 points. I'm putting the most optimistic spin on it that I can. That's the most optimistic way I could do it. So let's stay in it. It is get back in it week for the Sabres. Thanks for listening today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. The only update really to give you on practice for the Sabres this morning is that Jordan Greenway, after missing Saturday's game, was back at practice skating. So we'll see what line he figures in on, but it's good news at least that Greenway was back skating. So that's the only update really to look at from Monday morning skate. Thanks for listening. We'll talk Sabres and Red Wings tomorrow. Look at the build of the two teams, where they're at, and also a little bit more on the matchup, of course. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app.